Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I wanted to talk about something that has been ruining my life. And no, I'm not being dramatic at all when I say this. This has literally been ruining my life. And that thing is procrastination, okay? I have been a chronic procrastinator for as long as I can remember. I procrastinated all through middle school, all through high school, and honestly all through college as well. And I feel like when you are a procrastinator in school, it's not something that you really care to fix because it kind of works for you, right? You're getting your assignments in on time, even if it is, getting done the last minute. So it's not something that you care to fix, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But when you become an adult, that's when it becomes a problem. That's when it becomes a problem, because when you procrastinate as an adult, it's not just you get a bad grade possibly on a test. It's like now your money is getting messed up. Your career goals are not on track. You are forgetting to schedule doctor's appointments. You are forgetting to pay your taxes. It's like things that have serious consequences, you procrastinate on, and it's no good. It's your livelihood is now at stake. So it got to a point where I had to really sit down and have a talk with myself and say, okay, Shaniqua, you and this procrastination thing has to stop. So I tried to go online and look up, the methods that people use on how to stop procrastinating. And, it was the methods that you usually see online, better time management skills, better organizational skills and stuff like that. And no matter how hard I tried, I still could not stop procrastinating. All of these tips that I was finding online that seemed to work for other people, they were not working for me. So honestly, it got to a point where it was really taking a toll on my self-esteem. I struggle with depression as well, so it was making my depression worse. Trying to fix this area of my life and not being able to, it was weighing on me. And honestly, it was making my anxiety worse as well, because it's like all of these tasks are piling up and I know I need to do them, so they're in the back of my mind, but it's like I'm still procrastinating and don't know how to stop. So after doing a bunch of research, I finally came across something that applied to me and that actually made sense and that helped me to stop procrastinating. And the topic that I came across is how procrastination can be a trauma response. Now, I would have never thought to link procrastination to my past trauma. I honestly just kind of labeled myself as being lazy, which honestly is also really bad for your self-esteem and your mental health. So when I came across, this information about procrastination being a trauma response, everything just clicked, everything made sense, and I was able to devise a plan that actually worked for me when it came to overcoming my past trauma to stop the procrastination. So now I am doing much better. I don't procrastinate as much. I still slip up sometimes, but for the most part, I'm doing much better. So yeah, I'm hoping that this video will help you to be a bit more compassionate with yourself and not just labeling yourself as lazy because you procrastinate, and actually looking at it through the lens of it being a possible trauma response. And I'm hoping that the method that I outlined in the video will help you to overcome your procrastination. So let's go ahead and dive into the voiceover. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about how procrastination is indeed a trauma response. So when we've experienced past trauma, basically what happens is that there's something created within us called a core wound, right? So the definition of core is the central, most important part of something. And then the definition of wound is an injury, specifically in this case, a psychological injury, right? So if you put those two definitions together, a core wound is a psychological injury that is the central, most important part of you, of your mind, of your being. And so when we experience past trauma, these core wounds are implanted in us. So some examples of core wounds would be the feeling of being unwanted, the feeling of being unlovable, the feeling of being worthless, and the overall feeling of just not being enough, right? These are actual wounds. You can't see them, of course, because they're psychological, but they are there. They have scarred your mind. And remember, I said that the definition of core is the central, most important part of something. So these wounds affect your entire being. Everything that you do is affected by these wounds until they are healed. So, like I said before, you can't see these wounds because they're psychological. But if you could picture for a second, if these wounds were physical wounds, I like to envision a core wound as like a burn, right? A burn that's covering a large part of your body. Now, if you had a burn covering a large part of your body, you would not want anyone to touch that burn. You would probably avoid people as much as you can because you don't want that burn to be touched because it will be painful. So pretty much when you are procrastinating, that's what you're doing. You're trying to avoid touching that burn. You're trying to avoid touching that wound because whatever task that you are putting off, whatever task that you're procrastinating on, it's reminding you of this core wound. It's getting dangerously close to touching this core wound. So, for example, let's say that you have a core wound of feeling worthless, right? Or feeling like you're not enough. Any task that can trigger that in you, you're going to avoid doing it. So a lot of people, they have like goals, that they want to reach, and they procrastinate on those goals because if they fail and they feel this sense of worthlessness because they failed, it will touch that core wound. It will activate that core wound. People who don't have past trauma, they have the ability to fail and then they can get back up, dust themselves off, and keep going. But that's because they don't have these core wounds that get activated, and it's less painful for them. You see what I'm saying? So basically, procrastination is just you trying to avoid your core wounds at all costs. So if you are able to realize this and know this, then you will be able to stop procrastinating because you'll be able to devise a plan on how to deal with these core wounds. Now, there are two ways to approach your core wounds, right? First, you can heal your core wound completely, like heal it at the root. And I'm going to have to do a different video on that because it's going to be very in-depth. If I put it in this video will be like an hour long. So healing your core wound is one way to address it. But you can also take the other route of soothing your core wounds until you're able to fully heal them. Being able to soothe your core wounds is going to be the next best thing for you so that you can immediately start working on stopping the procrastination. Because if you have to heal your core wound at the root, that's going to take a while. And so, you wouldn't be able to stop this procrastinating right away. It would take a very long time to heal your core wounds. But if you can just soothe it, then you can start the process. You see, it's kind of like if you were to like break a bone. It's going to take a while to heal that bone completely, but the doctors can most likely give you like some sort of medicine for you to not feel the pain. So we're focusing more on the medicine here in this video so that you can immediately start to, stop the procrastinating. And later on in another video, we'll talk about healing the core wounds at the root. Okay, so basically this process is going to take place in 2 steps. You want to pre-plan, like before you start this whatever task that you have, and then you also want a actual plan for when you have to start the task. There's a pre-plan and then there's a plan for the actual task. Okay, so in the pre-plan, this is a plan that you're going to want to write out when you are not in a state of fear, because that's pretty much what's happening whenever you are about to procrastinate. You are feeling the fear of your core wound about to be activated, right? So this pre-plan, this is something that you're doing before you ever start the task, so you don't have any fear while you are writing down this plan. So the first thing you want to do is to break down your task into smaller steps. So let's say that, using the example of before about you writing an essay for school, you would sit down and write out each part of your essay that you have to complete and break it down into as many small parts as you can. So you would break it down into like, okay, you need to write the header, you need to write the body of the essay. I've been out of school for a long time, y'all. I'm trying to think of this from the top of my head. You need to write the conclusion, things of that sort. You would break down the essay in its entirety into very, very small steps. And the point of doing this, breaking down this task into small steps, is that it will actually lessen your fear. Because think about it. If you were told that you have to travel somewhere far, right? And somebody's just like, yeah, you have to be in this town by this time, go. You would probably feel very panicked and overwhelmed and confused, right? But if somebody told you, I need you to be in this town by this time, and here's a step-by-step map on how to get there, then your fear would go down, because humans like certainty. They like feeling certain about what they're about to do. They like having clarity. It calms down the nervous system. And remember, like I said, whenever you are about to procrastinate, you are experiencing fear because of your core wound possibly being triggered. So anything that you can do to lessen this fear and calm the nervous system is a good thing. So whenever you are assigned a task and you know that this is a task that you're going to procrastinate, in this pre-plan, you want to write out the task in very small, easily followed steps. Okay. So next, what you want to write down is a self-soothe plan, meaning that you want to write down how you are going to soothe yourself if your core wound is activated, if your core wound is hit, right? Like, for example, let's say writing this essay, you fear that you're going to get a bad grade on the essay, and you fear that that bad grade is going to make you feel like a failure. It's going to hit your core wound, right? You have to basically write down what you would do if that would actually happen. What steps would you take to soothe yourself and to regulate those feelings if that were to happen? Because basically my thinking behind this step is that fear is usually a byproduct of us feeling like we can't handle an outcome. So whenever we have a plan on what we would do if something were to happen, it lessens the fear. That's like if somebody is living alone and they're afraid of living alone, they're more likely to feel less afraid if they have like an alarm system, if they have like a weapon in their house, because they feel like, okay, if somebody did break in, I have a plan on what I would do. And so I feel less fearful. It doesn't take away the fear completely, but I feel far less fearful because I have a plan. So like I said, fear usually comes from us feeling like we can't handle an outcome. So having a plan in place on how we would handle that outcome, it drastically lessens the fear. So write down a self-soothe plan for yourself if that core wound is activated. If you were to put your all into this essay and then you get an F, how would you soothe yourself? And this is going to vary from person to person. This could be, maybe you like to take a nice long bath. It calms your body. Maybe you'll do something nice for yourself, buy yourself a nice gift. Maybe you'll go and hang out with your friends, or you'll plan something. Maybe even, like, let's say you have a day where you know that you're getting the essay back. Like, your teacher grades the essay on a certain day and gives it back to you. You could plan something fun for that day so that if you do get an F on this essay, you have something to look forward to. You have something fun that will take your mind off of it. You see what I'm saying? So a self-soothing plan will help you to feel more at ease if you were to have a negative outcome. And if your core wound were to be hit, you will know that you will be able to handle it. And you will be surprised at how much that will lessen your fear. So those are the two things that you need to write down for your pre-plan. One is breaking down the task into very small steps, small, easy to follow steps. And two is writing out a self-soothe plan just in case your core wound is hit and activated. Okay, so next we're going to look at the actual plan. That was the pre-plan. Now we're looking at the plan, meaning how to actually start the task. So this is going to take place when your fear is actually activated, okay? When your fear of hitting your core wound is activated and you feel the urge to procrastinate, that's when this plan kicks in, all right? So usually this is going to happen when you feel the urge to distract yourself. Like, let's say you're about to write your essay, right? And then suddenly you feel the urge to go and check your Facebook or check your Twitter, or I'm just going to go and check really quick, or, oh, I'm just going to go and grab a quick snack first, or, oh, I'm just going to go and call my friend first and talk to them first. I'm going to watch this quick episode on Netflix first. Y'all know what we all do when we are trying to procrastinate. Suddenly we find a million things that we would rather be doing or something more important to do. And so that is a distraction. That's basically that's our fear kicking in and trying to distract us from this task, because we fear that this task is going to activate our core wound. So identify your distractions, because when you identify your distractions, that will tell you when your fear is being activated and it's now time to start this plan in order to stop this procrastination from happening, right? So boom, your distraction has been identified. You have the urge to go on social media instead of doing your essay. What you want to do now is you want to give yourself a pep talk, okay? Very important step. You're wanting to give yourself words of positive affirmation that counteracts the fear that you are having, okay? So you don't want to run away from this feeling. You want to resist the urge to distract yourself. Sit with this feeling that you are having and actually talk to yourself and even say the fear out loud. Because I was reading that when you say the fear out loud, it actually helps to lessen it. So when you're giving yourself this pep talk and giving yourself words of affirmation, say your fear out loud. So for example, we're using the example of the essay, right? You can say to yourself, I am fearful right now of writing this essay because I fear that I'm going to get a bad grade. I fear that this is going to make me feel worthless. Say it out loud. Look in the mirror if you have to, right? So once you have said this out loud and you have identified this feeling, now you want to talk back to yourself in second person. So say to yourself, no, you are not a failure. You are capable of completing this. And you can even add in some past memories of yours that counteract the fear. So you could say to yourself, remember that other essay that you wrote and you got an A, you're capable of writing this essay. Or remember that other thing that you did in the past and you were successful at it, you are capable, And you could even throw in, just words of compassion towards yourself. Like, even if things don't go perfectly, that's okay. That doesn't make you a failure. You're a great person anyway. You're worthy anyway. And it might feel a little bit weird to talk to yourself this way, but don't forget, it only feels weird because a lot of us have not experienced this type of compassion before. And that's why we're in this predicament in the first place, right? Because people who have experienced getting compassion for other people in the face of failure, they usually are better at facing tasks that they could possibly fail at. So yeah, it might feel weird to talk to yourself in this loving, compassionate way, but that's a good thing that it feels weird because it's going against all the past negative conditioning that you have. So give yourself a pep talk, positive words of affirmation, remind yourself of past memories that you have that counteract this fear, and say this fear out loud. So if you do this, right, and you are still feeling resistance, what I came up with that has been working for me is that you can actually use your distraction tool to start your first step. Now, let me explain. When you wrote out your pre-plan, you wrote down small steps that you have to take in order to complete your task, right? So basically, you can turn on your distraction tool and do your first step of your pre-plan at the same time, because that will help you transition into the task. Okay, so example. Let's say that we are using the example of the essay, writing the essay, right? So on your pre-plan, we wrote out all the small tasks that we have to do to complete this essay. So let's say that the number one thing on the small task list is that you have to write your name and your title of your essay. That's the first thing on your task list, right? So what you want to do is use your distraction tool. So for me, let's say that my distraction tool is that when I feel like I want to procrastinate or when I feel fearful of completing this task, I like to turn on a show and watch a show, right? So what you want to do is go ahead and turn on that show. Go ahead and turn on that distraction tool. And while it is playing, go ahead and complete your first step of your task, because that's going to help you transition into the task while lowering your fear and lowering your resistance. Because like I said, whenever you are about to procrastinate, it's because you are feeling fear. And this distraction tool, it brings the fear down some. So using this tool and completing this first step, it's a great way to transition into starting your task while bringing the resistance down. And I definitely have used this before. Like, there are times where I have certain tasks that I need to do, like answering emails and things of that sort that I procrastinate on. And what I will do is I will turn on Golden Girls, which is my distraction tool, it's my go-to show. I will turn on Golden Girls, and while Golden Girls is playing on my laptop, while Golden Girls is playing on my phone, I will open up my laptop laptop and open up my emails, and then I will, you know, start answering the first email. And as I'm starting it, then I am getting more, you know, motivation, and the fear is going down, and then I can turn off Golden Girls and I can complete my task. So definitely try this out because it absolutely works for me. So if you, like I said, after you give yourself the pep talk, after you give yourself the positive words of affirmation, and you feel like it's not enough, and you feel like you still have this resistance, try this method of merging your distraction tool with your first step that you wrote out in your pre-plan. And then you should be able to go ahead and finish your task in depth without any distractions after that, and you will feel much better and much more confident in yourself after you are done. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said before, I understand firsthand what it's like to be a chronic procrastinator and how difficult it can make your life, and also how much of a toll it can take on your self-esteem, because when you're constantly telling yourself, okay, I'm going to get this done, I'm going to make sure I start this task on time, and then we end up procrastinating, it really causes us to judge ourselves quite harshly, and we start to label ourselves as lazy and things of that sort. So I'm just hoping that with this video you are able to look at procrastinating through a different lens, and that you're able to be a bit more compassionate with yourself, and hopefully the plan that, you know, we discussed in the video will be helpful to you in terms of breaking this pattern of procrastinating. So for those of you who are subscribed to my Patreon, I did upload a bonus video over there. So basically in the bonus video, I broke down the 4 most common types of procrastinators, and I'll put them on the screen so that you can see them. And basically the 4 most common types of procrastinators are the perfectionist, the dreamer, the crisis maker, and the worrier. So in the bonus video, I pretty much break down each of these types. I described their characteristics, the trauma associated with each type, and then I just wrote out an in-depth plan for each type of procrastinator, which includes specific words of affirmation to overcome the fears associated with each type of procrastinator. So yeah, it's like a more in-depth video to this video, where you're able to actually put yourself in a specific category. And if you're able to identify which category you're in, then you can utilize that to overcome your procrastination in a more specific way. So yeah, that is over on my Patreon. For those of you who are subscribed, I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. And I will definitely be doing more in-depth and more bonus videos over there. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope that this was helpful to you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.